Okay, so today we're doing a deep dive into this essay
Hmm.
by Jose Fernando Costa,
Okay.
and the essay is called The Paradox of Self-Awareness: Why Knowing Yourself Isn't Always Enough.
Yeah.
And so basically we're going to be talking about self-awareness and this sort of weird thing that happens when you start to learn more about yourself.
Uh-huh.
This idea that the more you learn about yourself, the more you realize you're not good enough.
Right.
Have you ever experienced that?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I think it's a pretty common human experience to go through that.
Yeah.
To feel like the more you understand yourself,
Right.
the more you uncover things that you feel like you need to work on
Yeah.
or that you're not quite where you want to be.
Exactly. And Costa really hits on this idea.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
He talks about this powerful image of fear
Okay.
being like a parasite
Mm-hmm.
that sort of grows alongside you
Right.
as you try to improve.
It's a really interesting metaphor. It's
Right.
like this thing that feeds off of your desire to be better, but it can actually end up holding you back.
So how does he explain the development of this parasite?
Well, he talks about it coming from like two main sources. One is like, that inherent insecurity
Yeah.
that a lot of us carry around, maybe anxieties we've had for a long time about our worth.
Right.
But then there's this other kind of fear.
Okay.
And it's this fear that comes from guilt.
Sure.
The guilt of knowing we could be pushing harder,
Yeah.
striving further.
I see.
Like that feeling of, I could be doing more.
Right. And that makes me think about this other question that Costa brings up,
Okay.
which is like, what does trying hard enough even mean?
Oh, yeah.
It's like such a huge question for me
Absolutely.
because it's like, I feel like I'm always struggling with that.
It's so subjective.
Right.
It really depends on like so many factors.
Yeah.
Like what are your goals?
Right.
What are your expectations for yourself?
Yeah.
Who are you comparing yourself to?
That's such a big one.
Oh, it's huge. Yeah.
Especially like in today's world with social media and everything.
Totally.
It's like you're constantly bombarded with images of other people's success.
Right.
And it makes it really hard to figure out like what's enough for me.
And that ties into what Costa's saying about external validation.
Yeah.
This idea that we start to look outside of ourselves for that measure of worth.
Right.
And it can be really tricky because external validation can be motivating.
Yeah.
But it can also become this chase, this constant need for approval.
And so then that's when you lose touch with yourself.
Exactly.
With your own goals.
You get caught up in what other people think.
Yeah.
And you lose sight of what actually matters to you.
Right. And so Costa's saying that gap between how we see ourselves and how others see us, that's where the fear really starts to breed.
That's where it finds fertile ground.
Yeah.
And it can be so hard to break free from that cycle.
And the other thing that Costa talks about is this idea that it's not all our fault.
Right.
He talks about this like genetic or biological propensity towards self-doubt.
Yeah. He says we're almost predisposed to underestimate ourselves.
Yeah. It's like we're wired to think we're not good enough.
Which is kind of a bummer.
Right. But also like kind of a relief.
I know, right?
Because it's like, okay, maybe it's not just me.
It's not just you. It's like a human thing.
Yeah.
And so I think that's why it's so important to be kind to ourselves.
Oh, absolutely.
To have self-compassion.
Yeah.
Because we're all struggling with this to some degree.
And also I think it's important to have tools.
Tools.
Like strategies for managing this fear.
Yes.
Because it's not going to go away completely.
Right. It's about learning to work with it.
So what are some of those strategies?
Well, Costa talks about honest self-reflection.
Okay.
Being really honest with yourself about your strengths and weaknesses.
So not just focusing on the negative.
Exactly.
But also acknowledging the positive.
Yeah, and I think mindfulness practices can be really helpful.
Like meditation, being present in the moment.
Yeah.
And finding a supportive community.
Yeah.
People who encourage you.
Right.
And believe in you.
So it's like this combination of internal work and external support.
Exactly.
It helps you manage the fear.
It's not about erasing self-doubt completely.
Right.
It's about learning to manage it.
So that it doesn't hold you back.
Exactly. You want to use it as fuel.
Okay.
To propel you forward.
Yeah.
Not as an anchor that weighs you down.
So it's like turning the parasite into like a symbiotic relationship.
I like that.
Where it's helping you grow.
Exactly. You're working together.
Instead of it just feeding off of you.
Exactly.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So I think the big takeaway here is that self-awareness is important. But it's not enough on its own.
Right.
You need to have those tools.
Yeah.
That support system.
That self-compassion.
Exactly.
To really make it work for you.
And to turn that fear into something positive. Awesome. I think that's a great place to leave it.
Yeah, I think so too.
Thanks for joining me for this deep dive.
It was my pleasure.
And we'll see you at time.
Okay, bye.